This is the first of 2 videos on platform skills that will make sure that your presentations come across great. In the next one, we'll look at some of the advanced skills that professionals use. But in this one, we'll focus on the basic platform skills you need to make a great presenter. When you're presenting, 4 things tend to dictate the impact you have with your audience. And I mean you, because I want to distinguish that from the impact that your visual aids have, because that is a topic I covered in another video. Those 4 things are your content, and I also covered that in another video too, so we won't cover that one here. Your physical impact, your vocal impact, and your rhetorical impact. Your physical impact is how you come across as a person physically in front of your audience. Your vocal impact is how your voice sounds and comes across to them. And your rhetorical impact is all about the words you choose to use and the way that you combine them. Your personal or physical impact is your body language. And as my dad used to say, you only get one chance to make a first impression. The first thing I think of here is your clothing and your appearance. And my top tip is to ask yourself, who do you trust to give you good, honest feedback about the way you come across? And if you're not good at choosing style and dressing to impress, then who do you know who is and can give you good advice on what will work for you? Secondly, think about your posture. Keep it upright, symmetric, balanced, and stable. A great posture for a presenter to come back to throughout your presentation is with your feet shoulder width apart, facing your audience directly, with your arms hanging comfortably to your side. And finally, the other important thing is eye contact. If you're presenting to a small group of people, you can make eye contact with each person individually. If, on the other hand, you've got a large audience, then be sure to scan across the whole audience from time to time, fixing your eye contact on a group of people here and a group of people there. If your audience is large enough, then if you fix your attention on someone central to a group of people, then all the people around them will think that you're looking at them. Good quality eye contact while you are speaking is difficult for many people, but it does make you a supreme communicator. Vocal impact is all about your voice and the way that you use it. And we need to start by thinking about the impact that your posture and your breathing have on the quality of your voice. Again, if your posture is open and upright, it gives you the best chance of getting plenty of air to your lungs. Secondly, if you allow yourself to pause so that you can breathe, and you take time to breathe deeply at relevant points in your presentation, that will help your voice to settle to its natural lowest register and sound as authoritative as you can. After that, you can start to play with the way that you use your voice. Some of this is pretty easy, other parts are difficult. So, in an approximate order from the easiest to adjust to the hardest, let's look at the different ways that you can control your voice to create an impact on your audience. First is volume, or loudness. Yes, if you turn up the volume, people can hear you more clearly. But also, if you turn down the volume, people have to lean in to listen. And as long as you control your voice so that they can actually hear, that can have a super powerful effect, particularly when you're making an important point. Next is pace or rhythm, the speed with which you're speaking. Some people like a speaker to speak slowly so that they can catch each word, but others get impatient and they want you to speak quickly. Of course, it doesn't matter which you choose. If you use the same pace constantly throughout your presentation, people will get bored. So mix it up. Speed up sometimes, and then slow down when it's important. But here are a couple of useful guidelines. Firstly, if a significant proportion of your audience does not have your language as their first language, then they are going to struggle to understand you. In that case, it makes sense to slow down. A small number of people over the years have made small complaints in the comments to my YouTube videos that the videos will be improved by playing them at 1.25 times or even 1.5 times the speed. That's absolutely true if English is your first language, but I know that a large part of my audience is from all over the world, and for many of those people, English is a second or business language and they have to work harder. Anyway, vary your pace. The other guideline I'd offer is it's always a good idea to start slowly and then build up the pace as you get into your presentation. If you start slowly, then the people who need to hear you speak slowly to feel comfortable will be drawn in. And then if you speed up, the people who need you to speak quickly will soon be happy. And the people who like to hear you speak more slowly will have gradually accepted the speeding up and feel comfortable, as long as you don't go too fast. The next thing you can vary is the pitch or the tone of your voice. Obviously, variety is important. Allow your voice to go up and to go down. But the general rule here is often thought to be that the deeper your voice, the more authoritative you are. That's actually not true. What we recognize as authority is a comfortable vocal tone. That is to say, we can hear when a voice is under stress. And voices become stressed when we become stressed. Our breathing gets shallower and faster, and therefore our voices start to rise, and that causes our throat to constrict, which pushes our voice higher and higher as we get more and more nervous. We can hear when someone is relaxed and talking at their natural register, because when we're relaxed, we take lots of deep breaths, our chest expands, our throat opens out, and yes, tone of our voice settles to a lower register. And that's what we recognize when we hear a speaker with authority. Next are modulation and inflection, and we'll start with modulation, but they are similar but different. Modulation is varying the way you deliver what you're saying through a sentence and through a paragraph. It's the ups and downs through the talk. And we can modulate tone, we can modulate pace, we can modulate volume, we can modulate pretty much anything. Inflection are the varieties, particularly in tone, within a single word. And of course, in English, the most common inflection is a rising inflection at the end of a word, which makes it sound like a question. And of course, if it's not intended to be a question, it then robs you of some of your authority. It makes it sound like you doubt what you're saying. So, get into the habit of creating a downward inflection at the end of every sentence and the final word of that sentence. That way, you sound like you've got authority, and if you want to ask a question, you can add a rising inflection at the end. Can't you? Next is stress, picking on a particular word to make sure that you emphasize it. Again, you can stress with volume, with pace, or indeed with tone. And now it's getting even harder. We're in the realms of, frankly, what professional actors are trained to do. The next one is timbre. It is the quality of your voice. It is the range of different harmonics and overtones. Now, I don't know how to train you to modulate and control the timbre of your voice, but what I do know is that the best way to optimize it to its natural optimum is to make sure you are as relaxed as possible. And that goes, frankly, beyond breathing deeply and opening out your chest, but actually relieving all the stress, particularly around your upper chest, your shoulders, your throat, and your jaw. Before you start presenting, tense, relax. Tense, relax. And do it with your jaw too. Tense and relax. Get a feeling for what real relaxation is. And finally, a tricky one, but professional speakers get good at this through practice. It's sometimes called locus, but the easiest word to understand is projection. How you project your voice out to the corners of the room, to every individual in the room, how you fill the room and where you place your voice. This is not about loudness. You can project a whisper so that everyone hears. Of course, it's difficult to demonstrate on video. By the way, on a personal note, you may notice that my voice isn't sounding good at the moment, and that's because about 2 weeks ago I had COVID, and one of the long-term effects of COVID for many people is breathlessness. My voice control and indeed my ability to sustain speaking is not at its best. The final way to give impact to your presentation is through rhetorical impact, and this is all about the words you choose to use and how you choose to string them together to give your speech some real power. First, use natural language, simple words and simple structures. Make everything you say as easy for people to understand. Get rid of jargon or explain it clearly if you must use it. Don't use long, complicated sentences, and say what you mean. Could have said, avoid using negatives, but that's a bit confusing, so say what you mean. At a slightly more advanced level, you can start to introduce sensory language, language that activates people's physical senses and their sensations. You can also use permissive language. You can also use permissive language. Permissive language is language that gives people permission to do things. So words like you can, rather than you should or you must, make people feel comfortable. Make your point clearly and use a strong open and close to create memory and recall of the important points you want to make. And to help people remember, use repetition, use repetition, use repetition and rhythm. In fact, 3s are the magic number for things to sound good. So don't just use repetition and rhythm. Use repetition, rhythm and rhyme. Or you can change things up a bit. Repetition, rhythm and rhyme also has alliteration. It sounds great. But if you want people to really notice it, make the third one different. Use repetition, rhythm and humour. There are many techniques that great speakers use in rhetoric. The 2 most widely used are the power of 3s, but also the power of contrasts. This, not that. Now or then. You can do this, but you can't do that. Can't do this, but you can do that. Also make use of what we know about the human attention span. 20 minutes of deep concentration is about the max you can hope for, so chunk your presentation into 10 or at most 20-minute chunks. And that will also help you with making sure that you take pauses, because the use of silence is one of the most valuable tools that you have as a presenter. Please do give this video a like if you've enjoyed it or if you've learned from it. I'll be creating loads more great management courses videos for you, so please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any of them. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, and in the meantime, keep learning.